Okay, so I have here an Ingersoll Rand 5 horsepower compressor. Going by their website, it looks like they have two different models of these. One uses a V-twin head, and that one's much more expensive. This is the model available at Tractor Supply. Anyway, I'm going to get this set up today, and I'm going to add a water separator between the compressor and the tank in order to keep the moisture levels to a minimum inside the tank, because that's one of the biggest factors of what determines the life expectancy of your air compressor is really the tank and it rusting out due to water collecting inside. So let me show you what I've got and how we're going to assemble this. So I'll walk you through what I have here. First off, I have this Durali tube and fin cooler core. They advertise it for use on transmissions, power steering, etc. This should be rated to 200 psi per their website. It's the model number 15300. I'll try to post links down in the description when I put this video up. I have an Ingersoll Rand timed automatic tank drain valve, a pipe bending set for copper, synthetic compressor lubricant. Tractor Supply advertised this as extending your warranty if you bought it and presumably used it, although they do come with, I think, a quart of oil to begin with. And I figured at least I was getting something for my money, although it was a bit overpriced. I have some ODI water-soluble flux. ODI Safe Flow lead-free solder. This one has silver in it. I think it's supposed to be a little more rigid, a little stronger than the normal solders used in plumbing. 2 AAN to 3/8 inside diameter or 1/2 inch outside diameter copper tube compression fittings. 2 adapters to go from 1/2 inch inside copper to 3/8 inside copper or 5/8 outside to 1/2 inch outside. Gets real confusing because they use both inside and outside diameter. 120 to 240 volt, really it's 90 to 260 or some volt power meter that I'm going to put on the compressor just to keep track of that. A Speed Air 4G NL4, and this is the water air separator that I'm going to use. I got that from Granger. Bought some 3/8 inside diameter copper tube and 1/2 inch inside diameter copper pipe type L. And back over here I have some inverted flare fittings. And this goes on the compressor and then another one goes on the tank fitting, or the check valve that goes down into the tank rather. And I do have a flare tool for this, and you'll need the same if you're going to use the same fittings over again. And then from Parker, I have 2 MAL pipe thread to 5/8 outside diameter, 1/2 inch inside diameter tube compression fittings. These are fairly high pressure rated compared to some of the solder fittings I saw, and that's why I bought these. I tried to make sure that everything I was buying was going to be rated for at least 200 psi, since the compressor will go up to 175. I also have 1/2 inch cable clamps here with the rubber insulation in them, and I'm going to use that to mount the Durali transmission cooler to the grate. I don't ever like using these because you always end up bending the fins and you screw into them, and it doesn't seem like I could get a very strong hold without using a whole bunch of them. So I think this solution will work, and it provides some vibration isolation there. And these are where the 8AN fittings are going to go, so one on each side. It'll go on there, and then there's the compression fitting in that side. You connect that to your copper pipe. I'll give you a quick look at the pipe coming out of the compressor and going into the tank, and we'll see how we're going to attack this. Fairly simple. Here's the inverted flare fitting. You could probably get something that goes to a MAL inline pipe thread and take this out, but it's painted in and sure to be quite tight. Just comes down and goes down there with another inverted flare fitting. So I'm going to come off of this and go 90 degrees out, and I'll show you that real quick. So we'll come out up here, and then I'll have the transmission cooler mounted here in front of the fan to help get some airflow across it. If I don't think that's working too well, I might add some PC fans or 48 volt fans, whatever. Some sort of DC cooling fan on the front of the Durali to help blow air across it and keep it cool, because that's where the water will condensate out of the system and then collect down in the water separator. I'll have the outlet going this way and the water separator mounted somewhere over here. Then I'll convert back to the 1/2 inch inside diameter pipe, come up, go over, and then back over and down into the tank of the compressor. Okay. Well, the first thing I guess I'll try and screw up here is the copper pipe. Going to try bending that. I think this is the smallest die that'll fit. Yep. I don't remember how this goes together actually. I think I checked it out when I first bought it. Let's see if we can't get a 90 in here. This says 5/8. Okay. Looks like the closest we're going to be able to get to the end is about here. I have nothing to hold this with. You're probably supposed to put this in a vise or something. I don't know. Jeez. It obviously kinked the pipe. It started going so much easier. Oh, it broke the pipe in half. Obviously, Type L copper is brittle, and I think I knew this, but I'm going to have to use elbow joints everywhere. I told you I'd screw something up. Somebody probably called that out. I have my 90-degree copper fittings here, and if anybody thinks that I saw that coming, no, I didn't. I didn't actually think that the tube was going to break when I tried to bend it. Live and learn. Otherwise, I wouldn't have spent the money on this tube bender and then hung on to it until past the return date. So we're going to cut it. I don't think it's really damaged at this point. I know you can buy tools to do this, but really, how often am I going to plumb copper? Seems like the flux paste should have come with a brush or something, or I should have bought one. My goal is only really to get this hot enough to melt the solder. I don't want to anneal that copper. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Put that somewhere safe, just in case we ever want to switch back, which I don't think is going to happen. I'm going to go grab the cooler and slide it onto here, and we'll see how it lines up, and hopefully it's far enough over that it doesn't go over the edge of this grate. Oh, right, I need to solder an adapter on, which is going to push me. I can cut this. All right, I'm going to gently take this off of here. Are we cool yet? Oh, yeah. Well, this is the progress I've made so far. I got the speed air installed, and you can see the hose clamp there. It did deform the grate a little bit, which, you know, with OCD makes you sad because you have this shiny new compressor and this perfect new grate, but whatever. I have the 8AN fitting on there. I'm going over to the other compression fitting into the speed air, and then pretty close to the wall, so I'm going to end up having to do a 90 almost straight out of there. I barely have enough room. Then I'll run up to the rest of the plumbing that I've made to go down into the tank. Okay, I don't think I could have made that any more perfect if I wanted to. And let's go take a look at the other side. All right, we have the flare fitting down there. And sorry for the lighting again. Come up, do our 45s. I could have gone a little shorter on this leg down here, and that would have helped some of the clearance up there. But either way, this is going to do fine. Well, I got it installed. It works. Nothing exploded. I pumped it up to 175 psi a couple of times and everything seems to be fine. No water has dripped out. This is supposed to be an automatically draining water separator, and I think it'll only drain if you have an unloader valve, or if it's connected past your tank, then that area would need to lose pressure. That's my belief on how this works. Either way, I do have an unloader valve on here, and it would lose pressure after every time it pumped up, but it's the middle of winter here. It's been actually fairly cold because it's the end of January and it's just a cold year, so I don't think it's really collected much water. And even if it has, my cooler on the left there is actually not completely level and might actually pool a tiny bit on the bottom there. I may have to take the grate off someday and see if I can sort that out, but it'll be pretty difficult with everything assembled as it is. The only other thing is this pipe far out here. That one vibrates a bit. and I'm going to have to put a block of wood on there in order to cinch it down and prevent it from doing that, because it is possible that the solder joints could fracture due to all the vibrations, and we don't want that, especially on such a high pressure line. On your tank, if you have the 80-gallon Ingersoll Rand tank, it'll have a 1/2 inch NPT female on the bottom that the drain valve is plugged into, but there's an adapter down to 1/4 inch NPT, and the drain valve itself is 1/4 inch NPT. And I didn't know because I didn't get under the tank to look before I went to the store, so I bought 1/4 inch NPT nipple and a street elbow. I'm not going to be using the nipple. I think what I'll do is take the reducer out and just screw this directly into the bottom of the tank. There should be barely enough room in there, except this would make it impossible pointing down to install. Plus, I'd have no access to the controls once I installed it if I somehow manage that feat. If I'm going to have this pointing down, and it appears to have another manual drain valve on it already, along with a ball valve here, and then this would connect to the tank. This is your inlet to the valve, solenoid valve here, and your outlet here. Again, take my advice entirely at your own risk. I don't believe there's anything in this solenoid valve that will be damaged if I reclock it. So all I've done is I've loosened this up slightly already. Just a hair. You don't even need to go 1/2 turn. And now I can say, well, if I'm going to have it under the tank like this, and this is facing outwards so I can get to the valve if I want to, well, we'll rotate this up. So I'm just going to snug it back up. I'm not going to make it real tight, because it wasn't super tight to begin with. I have the automatic tank drain valve mounted on the bottom now. Don't mind all the cords raveling around it. I installed a pneumatic muffler over there on the right, and while that does work and quiet down the noise that this valve makes, and it is extremely loud, it now produces a high-pitched noise, and it is still quite loud. I haven't seen much water come out of this since the water separator started doing its job, and I could see water visibly dropping out of that. So I'm only going to run this occasionally by plugging it in whenever I need it. If it gets extremely humid in the summer and I start noticing significant portion of water in the tank, then I'm going to start leaving this plugged in and on the timer that I have it set to, which right now is 45 minutes for 1/2 second each time. And of course you would adjust that depending on how much water you tended to get in your tank. Okay, well that about wraps it up. Let me turn the compressor on here and you can actually see the water separator working. It should drop a bit of it out once the compressor turns on. Well, don't mind my shaky video work here. My tripod's dead. Anyway, that wraps it up. Hit that like button if you like this video. If not, you know what to do. Please subscribe if you want to see more content, and I'll see you again in the next one.